Of all our music clips, I think I like the reggae the best so far. But we're going to look around and see what else we can find. I've said I might record some myself too, but who has the time to go into the studio and record music nowadays? Anyway, I'm RJ Eskow. We are back on the Zero Hour, and our current guest is Maya Rockeymoore. Maya is the president and CEO of Global Policy Solutions. Maya, thanks so much for being with us.
It's a pleasure to be with you, RJ.
You know what? I just realized that the acronym for your company is GPS. Why didn't I figure that out before?
That's right. We're giving you the direction, the compass of where you need to go in this world and where this world needs to go in terms of inclusion, diversity, equity, and all of the above. So, yes, GPS is what we're all about.
Well, how are we doing? Are we lost? Are we on the way? Are we close?
We're trying to find our way, right? And I'm very excited that the progressive movement seems to be on the upswing when it comes to showing the direction that this nation needs to move in. We've been saying for a long time that we need to be addressing income disparities, wealth disparities in this nation. We've been saying for a long time that gender and race need to be addressed, that we need to be building an inclusive economy. And I feel as if we're turning a corner as a nation, that there are a lot more voices that are listening and beginning to look at how to institutionalize some of these factors that can make us better than we were before and great in the future.
Well, Maya, we've talked a bunch of times, and I know that you're not the kind of person who sugarcoats reality, so I'm always pushing I think at times I've had to push you in an optimistic direction. I'm always pushing optimism, so I'm totally psyched to hear you say that, but also curious to know what are some of the concrete signs you're seeing that the progressive movement is stepping up and really providing some leadership.
Well, it's interesting. I think that the media coverage is getting more traction in terms of, once we influence the media, then you have more people and more people in America who hear your voice, right? So I think the tone in the media has pushed away from this whole notion of austerity. I think that people are beginning to ask serious questions about the neoliberal paradigm. I think that the progressive movement has seen, some minor wins with regards to budgeting. Certainly, the chain CPI win, which was a win of a little minor skirmish in a long battle. And I think that a lot of candidates for office, if you're looking at the mayor of New York City, who is an avowed progressive, I think that the candidates of D.C. are actually aligning on the progressive side. I think that we're starting to see a movement, the Moral Mondays movement that's taking place and is spreading, actually, from North Carolina to other states across the country. Move on, taking on the red states that are refusing to actually expand Medicaid, and some of these governors who are actually trying to backtrack and accept this Affordable Care Act Medicaid dollars, but trying to call it by another name. These are signs that are pushing, that are voices, that are demanding of an inclusive society and economy are being heard. And so while, yes, you're absolutely right, RJ, you have been pushing me to be less pessimistic. And I feel as if you've gotten me there. I'm a convert. I am on your side that I think that we can do this. But we got
I got to say, having been the preacher of populist optimism, I still worry, and I'll tell you why. Because, yes, I agree with everything you've said. And by the way, I've written de Blasio's victory was a sign of, it's funny. With de Blasio, everybody, all the pundits said, it doesn't mean anything. It's just New York City. But when Michael Bloomberg got elected and had to spend $182 per voter to do it, that was a sign that the country was turning centrist. It's funny how selective they get. But so I wrote, yes, the de Blasio victory, the Elizabeth Warren victory, the pushback, the discussion of populism that people can no longer ignore. All of these things are positive signs. Absolutely. The removal of the chain CPI from President Obama's budget, absolutely a victory for the left. Having said all that, I worry that the national leadership of the Democratic Party is going to try to inoculate us against populism with tepid rhetoric. We heard that the president's and I'm taking the naysayer attitude here for a second. We heard that the president's State of the Union speech was going to proclaim the end of austerity. His budget was going to proclaim the end of austerity. He was going to say that inequality was the defining moral challenge of our time. Instead, he said that opportunity, which can be used by anybody on any side of the political debate, is the defining challenge of our time. What do we do to take good headwinds and get this ship of state sailing in the right direction? That's the part that worries me.
See, well, the Democratic, so this is the issue. The Democratic Party, and I think that progressives are slowly coming to realize this, is actually several parties in one. And unfortunately, the leadership, in many respects, and I am talking about the Obama administration, whom progressives have actually had to fight, literally, on these issues for the last several years. And certainly leadership in the Congress have been not where we would like them to be, right?
Right.
And so the fact of the matter is that there needs to be a wholesale push to make the Democratic Party what it needs to be on these issues, and that's been happening internally within the party, taking on the White House for, certainly many people believe betraying the fundamental values of the Democratic Party with their positioning around the grand bargain. Taking on some of the leadership and the congressional leadership on these issues has been a fundamental part of the progress we've made over the last few years, and we can't deny that. But that has to continue, because what the Democratic Party has actually got into the habit of is talking populism during elections, but then administering once they're in office from the perspective of centrism, and we can't let that stand. The policymaking actually has to follow the electioneering. And so with that, another thing is that I think that we need to really uplift and identify who the strategists are in the Democratic Party, because I think that there's been a failure of strategy, frankly. We have seen that people who try to walk this middle line are out of step with the American people. I think that Democratic candidates who walk this line, particularly on issues of social insurance, time and again, find themselves oftentimes either out of office. Look what happened to all the blue dogs. What happened to them? They're not there. Or they find themselves, certainly on the margins. And so, the Democratic Party really has to reclaim their traditional values. And at the heart of that is the legacy and the rich legacy of the New Deal and Great Society.
So we're talking with Maya Rockeymoore, who is president of Global Policy Solutions, GPS, and you know how guys hate to ask for directions, by the way. But listen, okay, who are those strategists? Who are the figures in the Democratic Party, or for that matter, in the independent, Bernie Sanders, whomever? Who are those leaders that can move progressive politics in the right direction?
You know what? You've got me stumped there, because I think that they're probably there. They're just not in the right positions. I think that Keith Ellison is somebody that we should look to for leadership in the future. I think that Javier Becerra certainly gets it. I think that I think that Bobby Scott of Virginia. I mean, those three guys in and of themselves. Donna Edwards, Elijah Cummings. I think that there are people who are talented and visionaries within the Democratic Party that serve their role currently in where they are at, but they're not responsible for actually providing overall direction for the party. They're not in positions of power at the DCCC or the DNC or within the congressional leadership. And we certainly need these voices and this type of leadership and strategy at the highest level.
Well, those are all great folks, and we're going to have you back and talk about how the left can strategize on putting them and people like them into positions of greater power. Until then, we're going to keep the faith, right? Maya Rockeymoore, President and CEO of Global Policy Solutions, thanks so much for being with us.
Always a pleasure, RJ.
You bet. I'm Richard Eskow, RJ Eskow, and this is the Zero Hour. We will be back after this.